Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. I'm Jordan. Here's your flash briefing for the week of July 7th. City Council will meet for a regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers in City Hall. Meetings are open to the public or watch live on the city's YouTube channel. If you can't watch, catch the recorded meeting on demand on the YouTube channel or by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. The 2025 Water Quality Report is now available for public viewing. The city is committed to providing safe and reliable drinking water. The report details the testing and treatment processes that ensure our top water meets all federal and state regulations. View the report on the city's website. Celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Lee Summit Fire Department at a fun-filled open house on July 19th from 9 a.m. to noon at Fire Station Number 4, located at 5031 Northeast Lakewood Way. Bring the whole family to tour the fire station and walk through an inflatable house to learn about fire safety. Don't miss this opportunity to honor their legacy and join the celebration. And Jamaican Jam is back at Legacy Park Amphitheater on July 18th at 7 p.m. Enjoy the tunes of the islands for free without leaving Lee Summit. Find more details at rocktheamp.net. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
So many of our past successes were made possible by understanding the multitude of perspectives in our community. When we take the time to see the world through someone else's eyes, we enrich our own understanding and foster an environment where everyone can thrive. When I see the renovations we've made to our parks, I see an investment not just in essential infrastructure, but in people that builds community and directly impacts the physical and social well-being of our residents.
I see equity, inclusive playgrounds where people from all walks of life can come together.
I see a place to play.
When I see the development we have helped facilitate in our community, I see the results of solution-oriented decision-making, with job opportunities, easier access to goods and services, housing options, improved infrastructure, and increased economic growth.
I see projects created through collaboration between the city and developers that will provide value, benefit, and opportunity to the Lee Summit community.
I see growth in community and a way to connect more people to their food.
When I see the major road improvements underway, I see well-connected and safe transportation that enhances mobility and increases access to local businesses, spurring economic growth, safe deliveries to homes, and happy trips to ball games and activities.
I see improved roadways, added sidewalks, and shared use paths for pedestrians and cyclists, safe transportation and recreation for all.
I see better connectivity, increase lanes, less congestion, and just make it easier to get around.
When I see the investments we've made in public safety, I see enhanced emergency preparedness and first responders who are ready on a moment's notice to protect the community and deliver immediate life-saving care.
I see the city value its fire department employees come to fruition in recruitment, retention, and a positive culture.
I see a community that can respond to emergencies quickly. My whole family lives in Lee Summit, so there's a lot of peace of mind there.
What we do is not just about making decisions and funding budgets. It's about enriching the quality of life for all of our residents. It's about realizing that a building is not just steel and concrete, a park is not just metal and ropes, a road is not just asphalt, and a city is not just land. It's about the experiences we provide to all people of all generations and backgrounds.
Officers en route, 914, armed robbery.
I have always volunteered in the community and I was always really involved, but then I ran for school board. Whenever I got done with my term, I just felt like I had more to give. It's always been my goal from day one is to get everyone in the community connected and working together, and I always called it a spirit of community. Well, Mayor's 24/7 and I have a job. I've had to work really hard at compartmentalizing, is what I call it. So during this time, I'm going to do work. During this time, I'm going to be a mayor, even though I can get a call at any moment about mayor stuff. And so I've had to even work that much harder at setting aside time for myself or for family. So I like to exercise, I like to work out. Hillary's my wife. She actually goes to work out with me as well. And we do like to go downtown to the shops. We make sure we maximize our time together. I mean, I've got 2 kids as well, and we spend a lot of time with them, or whatever time they will give us these days. And I have a dog. I think most people kind of know me know I have to have a dog. We have so much development going on, and we're growing fairly quickly, so we have a lot of infrastructure needs, and sometimes we have gaps in infrastructure, and we've always managed to get by, but with this kind of growth, we're really having to be creative and look at our options and just have a good plan for water, sewer, roads, and more. If we want to grow the most healthy way, we need a diverse economy. We do have a lot of retail that's opened up here, and there's been new construction for retail. We really need to focus in the future on bringing some, well-paying jobs here, good, strong employers that want to be located in this incredible community of now 101,000 people. A lot of our workforce does commute to work still, so they leave Lee Summit to go to work, and it'd be nice if we could keep some of those citizens right here in our community. The times I feel most proud are actually when I'm in the community and I see the community come together.
We have Buddy in the house. Mr. Mayor!
The tree lighting is always very fun. I always feel very proud. It's just a great warm feeling. The same thing goes for when the council will do something and we come together and make a good decision together. There's been a few of those that you go home feeling like a winner. And one of them was when we put together the downtown farmers market, when we bought the land, and it became real, all that hard work. But also the Diversity and Inclusion Commission, that was months and months of discussions and conversations that were really hard to have, and we went ahead and moved forward and as a council all together, and I was very, very proud of that. And there are a few things that the citizens have done that have really helped us tremendously. First, in the middle of a pandemic, they passed a use tax, which is a way for us to collect sales tax whenever someone purchases online. That helps shore up our revenues so that we can continue to provide as high quality services that our city provides. And it helps us take care of our employees, it helps us with our public safety and more. So I can't be more thankful to the citizens for that. Lee's Summit has the opportunity to have a major impact on the economy in the Kansas City area. We already, as an economy, are rolling along with such a high median income. We have an amazing workforce here that are paying taxes, they're paying property taxes, they're paying sales taxes, they're keeping our economy rolling, and we really are getting the attention of all our neighbors. And I think that what's going to happen is you're going to see the opportunity for us to really get everybody's attention when businesses start moving here, bigger businesses and more so. You should try to find a way to give back to the community, whether it's at the city level, citizen committees, or just participating in some of our community conversations whenever we have those opportunities. It's worth coming out of your shell or taking that leap of faith and just showing up and saying, what can I do or how can I help? The more that we do this together, the more wonderful the community is. Okay, welcome everyone. Would you please rise for the invocation and stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of this day and for the opportunity to come together in service to our community. We ask for your wisdom to guide each conversation and decision made here today. Let our hearts be humble, our minds be clear, and our actions reflect the values of justice, compassion, and peace. Lord, we also lift up those in Texas who are suffering from the devastating floods. Wrap them in your comfort, protect those in harm's way, and strengthen the hands of all who are helping with rescue and recovery. Bring healing to their hearts, provision for their needs, and hope for the days ahead. Bless our city and with unity, safety, and a spirit of cooperation. May we lead with grace and always remember that our work here is to serve others well. Amen.
Okay, again, welcome everyone. I'm calling to order the City of Lee Summit regular session number 43. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Rader. Here. Councilmember Pryor. Here. Councilmember Shields. Here. Councilmember Funk.
Here.
Councilmember Lovell.
Here.
Councilmember Carlisle. Here. Councilmember Hodges.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Here.
Mayor Baird.
Here. All right, the first item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the agenda. Councilmember Hodges has made a motion to approve the agenda. Councilmember Shields seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It's unanimous. Thank you. Next is the approval of the consent agenda. I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Consent agenda is also passed unanimously. Thank you. Next is Council Roundtable. These are items of general interest, things going on in your district. Our time to say thank you to the Boy Scouts in the room. Thank you for coming. Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. Thursday, July 10th, there's going to be a public meeting about the Southeast Douglas Improvement Project. So hopefully any members of the public who are interested in that 4th Street to Blue Parkway project will come to the Strother Room 5 to 7 p.m. on Thursday.
Thank you. Councilmember Funk.
Thank you, Mayor. You kind of got it there at the beginning to congratulate our scouts who are working towards their new badges for coming and visiting us tonight.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to highlight a couple things. There's a few of us council reps that made it to Legacy Blast that I saw there that evening. Another successful event. Thank you all that put that together. Our first responders, thank you. It was a well-executed event. So great to show our patriotism for the country, but then our spirit within the city as well. So really enjoyed that this year. I also had the opportunity to attend the One Good Meal 30th anniversary gala this past weekend. I was honored to be there and represent the city. Just goes to show you again, so many great things that happen in our community, and we have some amazing not-for-profits in our community that do amazing work every day. And One Good Meal is one of those. And 30 years, really want to just do a shout out and congratulate them for their perseverance. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Then we will go to our business for the evening. We first have a presentation on the Little Blue Valley Watershed Study. Looks like Mr. Binger's here to start us off.
Okay. If I get out of the computer to bring up the presentation, please. Here. There we go. Good evening. George Banger, City Engineer. This presentation is to review ongoing study for flood risk mitigation and ecosystem restoration in the Little Blue River watershed. This study's been going on for about 3 years now, and it's involved 7 local communities as well as the Corps of Engineers in a cost share project. So this evening, we've reached the point of the tentative selection plan. We have a public meeting scheduled on August 28th, so this is kind of a preview of some of that presentation at the public meeting. And we've asked some of the leaders in this project, Tom Jacobs, Mid-America Regional Council, is the Stormwater Director. He's been kind of overseeing and managing this project, so he'll be doing most of the presentation. And with us this evening, we also, for any other assistance, we have John Lund with the Corps of Engineers, who's the project manager. We have Rachel Edkin, who's a real estate expert. Dane Morris, who is the hydrology and hydraulics engineer for the Corps, as well as Jennifer Engler, who's one of the economists. So you'll see some of the economic impacts of this study as well. So if you please, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Jacobs for the presentation.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. See if I can, it's easy to move this thing forward. So George gave an excellent overview of this study. We've been at this for a while. We have a number of partners in this study, including, can I go backwards? No. Including the cities of Raytown, Blue Springs, Grandview, Kansas City, Independence, Jackson County. We've been working together on this roughly 220 square mile watershed to figure out how we can wrestle with very present issues of flooding and ecosystem degradation in the watershed. This slide shows really where we are in the study. We're in the feasibility study in the far left, and we hope to move this thing towards construction to get it built and to really make a meaningful contribution to solving these problems. And so that the end game here is to complete our feasibility study and get the sign off from all of our local communities and then from the Corps and Congress so we can continue to seek federal involvement and funding for this study. As you'll see moving forward, the funding split is roughly going to be 65-35 federal and local. And so moving this study forward positions us to receive very significant federal dollars to be able to address this. There's a lot of steps in between. There's a lot of complications. I'd be happy to walk you through in any level of detail that you'd like. So why are we doing this study? The top line issue is we've identified more than $1 billion of flood risk in this watershed. And it's a product of development in the watershed, changes in extreme weather patterns. There's a record of flood damage in the watershed, and the hydrology and hydraulics that the Corps worked out show very, very high levels of flood risk in Lee Summit and Independence particularly, but also throughout the whole watershed. At the same time, there's been very significant ecosystem degradation that's manifest in terms of loss of habitat and habitat connectivity, sedimentation in the channel, and erosion and the like. And so what we're doing is bringing a lot of folks together to try and figure out how we can clarify our local interests, come up with a set of solutions that everybody can get behind, work through the federal process, and try and get something done. So the coalition is made up of all the communities that I listed earlier. We've been getting together for several years, as George said, and working through with the Corps all kinds of technical elements, whether it has to do with the hydrology and hydraulics, the ecology, the economics, and more, to try and figure out what kinds of solutions might be viable for us. We've run through literally a few dozen different kinds of scenarios trying to figure out what might work from different perspectives, and we've done very detailed, when I say we, I mean our friends from the Corps have done very detailed technical analysis to try and figure out what would have the best result in terms of protecting infrastructure, public health, public safety in a cost beneficial manner. So the next few slides really just jump right into the proposed alternatives. This slide begins with the ecosystem restoration side. As Mr. Binger noted at the beginning, there's two chief purposes for this study, which are ecosystem restoration and flood risk reduction. And so on the ecosystem restoration side, in Grandview, there's a proposed number of non-structural buyouts and elevations, and the restoration of an old golf course. In Lee Summit, the proposal is to restore 17 acres of forest plantings and about 2 acres of herbaceous plantings, think prairie plantings, and 2 acres of wetlands. And those are shown on the image in the middle, on the bottom, along Southwest Hook Road. And then finally, further downstream, there's a significant number of proposed efforts, including reintroducing meanders to the channel. When the Corps did its work previously in the 80s, they straightened most of the channel. Putting meanders back provides a lot of ecological benefit as well as flood risk reduction benefit. A significant amount of additional riparian or streamside corridor restoration, bank stabilization, and connectivity issues. In Lee Summit, what that looks like is restoration that's forest and herbaceous and wetland restoration, as shown on the map here. There would be land acquisition involved to make that happen, and these proposed investments would be part of this comprehensive watershed-wide look at how we can restore the watershed. At the same time, the restoration recognizes the importance of existing forests and the need to conserve those to provide the ecological and flood risk benefits that attend. On the main stem, this is where we're getting into the flood risk reduction part. And so we're looking at 3, essentially we call them dry dams, along with the reintroduction of the channel meanders. You can see my mouse here. So if we were to do nothing at all, what the without project expected annual damages is shown at about $29 million. So that we did a lot of modeling runs and we averaged that over a 50-year period and said, how much damage might we expect to see? Of course, this wouldn't occur every year, but on average, if we were to do nothing, we would expect to see about $29 million of flood damage. And with the proposed investments, that'd be reduced by $16 million. So we don't believe we can solve all of this, but we can make a really meaningful difference. On the far right side, you can see how those benefits are essentially arrayed among the different communities. So Lee Summit would gain about 31% of the flood risk reduction benefits, and Independence about 61%, with smaller percentages attributed to the other communities. You can see on the image here, there's 3 proposed dry dams, one in Lee Summit, one in Kansas City, Missouri, and one in Raytown. And these 3 dry dams, in essence, are the heart of the flood risk reduction work. And you'll see this in a little more detail in the next slides. In Lee Summit, in the Cedar Creek area, there would be a proposal to acquire 82 acres of land and to build a dam that would hold back a whole lot of water, some 2,200 acre feet. And this would provide very substantial watershed-wide benefits. This would be on the downstream side of a dry dam in a different area at Unity Lake. What these are essentially open fields, and they can be used for recreational purposes, except for when it's flooding and they get wet, and then they'll hold water back and reduce downstream flooding. So they're dry most of the time. They create opportunities for parks and recreation, but at the same time, they play a flood risk reduction role. So in the overview of all of this, goes like this. On the flood risk management costs, we're looking at a total of $286 million. And so there's a piece in Grandview that's $27 million, and the other pieces all wrapped together add up to $258 million. We have a whole lot of detail that pertains to each one of these different elements that we can speak to in more detail, according to any questions that you might have. But the flood risk reduction and flood risk management costs are the big piece of this whole project. The ecosystem restoration costs are also substantial. They add up to $61 million. And as I indicated before, the total is for riparian restoration, it's for wetlands and prairie restorations and some other things. And so this is a very substantial project. It's a little scary when I see a number that big. But so when I began the presentation and I showed you the flow chart of how these federal projects are funded through the Corps and Congress, the headline here is at least 65% of project costs would be borne by the federal government as we move through this process, and there's potential for the federal contribution to be even greater. We are not, I imagine some of you may ask about funding for all of this. We're not there in the study yet, so I don't have a single answer for that. Our goal at this time is to try and complete this study in a way that meets the needs of each of our 7 participating local communities and that meets all of the technical criteria managed by the Corps, so that we can then take this and get what's called a Chief's report from the Chief of Civil Works at the U.S. Army Corps, which would position us to receive additional congressional appropriations. We anticipate that our study would be positioned to receive that Chief's sign-off in early to mid 2027. These projects are typically funded by Congress through legislation called a Water Resources Development Act, or a WRDA. Those typically occur on a 2-year rolling basis, and so 2028 would be the one thereafter that we'd hope to be in line for to receive continued funding. In between now and then, there's a whole lot of work that we would have to do together to try and figure out, how do we pay for this? How do we work together to actually manage a project of this scope and scale? How do we maintain this over time? What are the different funding opportunities? So we believe that there's answers out there. We haven't pinned anything down. We're trying to get this study done so that we can be well positioned to receive additional federal resources and move this project to completion. In terms of local government responsibilities, the Corps has noted that local governments are required to provide all lands, easements, relocations, rights-of-way, disposal areas, and so there are significant properties in Lee Summit that are part of this plan that would be clearly a part of future discussions. And importantly, as a group, the 7 communities involved would be required to maintain this federal investment in perpetuity. The Corps has an opportunity to help support that for the initial period after construction, but that's one of the challenges that we'll have to figure out how to address moving forward. So Mr. Binger noted that we have a public meeting scheduled for August 28th at Fleming Hall in Independence, and at that time, we will be presenting our draft, quote, tentatively selected plan for public review and comment, and we'll be able to take any comments to heart and make revisions accordingly. The next significant milestone from the Corps' perspective after that is in July 2026, which, moving from the tentatively selected plan, which we completed just a month or 2 ago, to an agency decision milestone. So at that point, we'd want to receive, concurrence. We'd want to know that all of the communities involved are supportive and in turn identify non-federal sponsors for the execution of design and construction. So I work at Mid-America Regional Council, right, and our job is to bring communities together to figure out how to solve problems that cross city, county, state lines, right? And so we have been the facilitator of this process so far. Mark is the formal signatory to the federal cost share agreement with the Corps for this feasibility stage. However, moving forward, we, of course, don't own property, build or manage infrastructure, and so one of the challenges also will be to figure out which of the communities or which partnership among the communities would be well placed to be the non-federal sponsor for subsequent project phases. As I indicated before, we'd be moving towards a chief's report in 2027 and inclusion of this project's recommendations in the 2028 WRDA. So with that, you have my phone number and email where I'd be happy to take any questions after tonight, but certainly tonight I'd love to do my best to answer any questions you might have, and if they're too hard, I'll call up my friends John and others from the Corps to help me out.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions for Mr. Jacobs or his help? Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. That's very informative. Just a quick question on the property that would need to be acquired, at least within our city limits. Have those property owners been informed of any of these kind of studies?
I'm going to defer to you.
At this point, we haven't had any formal conversations. We've had informal conversations with the Watershed HOA and some members of that area, and they've conveyed their interest in retaining like the trail they already have there, and that would be one of the features of the dry dam is it does that. But no, we haven't had formal conversations, but we've just had an informal. Yes, this is coming, and there'll be more information pending.
Okay, so it won't be a complete shock to a lot of these residents and property owners?
I'm not going to say it won't be a complete shock because we've only talked with a few individuals, and so we haven't put it out on like social media or anything like that. We're waiting to get to this, the public report, and then we could push that information out.
Okay, and yeah, I don't want to be premature, but yeah, I was just curious if any of this has been made public to people in the area.
This is not, again, we haven't done any formal public outreach on this. It's been more informal, conversing, and then if we've had some conversations with the HOA reps.
Okay, all right, that's helpful. Thank you, appreciate you both. Thank you, Mayor.
If I may, to add just a little bit of that, it's less of a public, like Lee Summit resident type of involvement, but we did have a couple of stakeholder meetings, so we had representatives of large landowners like the Lake City Ammunition Plant and some nonprofits and some of the state and federal agencies that might have an interest. And so there's been some level of that discussion, but not to the level at which you're asking.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jacobs, do you, can you go to slide number 8? It's the one with the estimated benefits by community.
Thank you. Yeah, it's up a few more. This one? Okay.
Yeah. On this chart, this first column, without project expected annual damages, about 29 million. And then you have the probability of occurrences, of course. And so you're just making an estimate. So is it fair to assume that if that's the annual amount of damages that could incur, that 10 years would be $290 million worth of damages? Is it?
So I'll take a quick cut at answering this and then defer to Jennifer Hengler, I believe, the economist from the Corps, who can answer this in more detail. So the probability of flooding was run over, a 50-year period. In some years it's dry, and some years it's really wet. And then the damages that were modeled over that extended time period were then averaged over that time frame. And so it is a probabilistic sort of exercise, but at a very high level, I think I could answer yes.
So over 50 years, if you took that number times 50, it'd be close to like 150 1.5 billion
Yeah.
over a 50-year period.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fair to assume that then, and then we could mitigate for that with what you're proposing. Over half of it looks like, because you're looking at 16 million, reducing the 29 million to 16 million with these changes, right? So we could save over half of that 1 billion, hypothetically.
Yes.
Okay. When you talk about these damages, can you just, because I think this is a great presentation. I've seen this before, but this is really good. I appreciate what you've done and kind of simplified it into layman's terms for us and such. But still in a little bit more layman's terms, just a little bit more simplification. When you talk about $30 million worth of damage in 1 year, what are the big costs? What are the big damages? Because you're talking about physical damages.
I'm going to defer to Jennifer on this.
Well, I could ask you specific questions, but it just would be better if you just
we're talking about,
yeah.
Flooding of infrastructure, of buildings, of
structures, contents.
Yeah, give us examples, please. I'm looking for tangible stuff.
Yeah.
Physical.
It includes structures getting wet, the contents within those structures. We're accounting for cleanup costs because of flooding. There's probably 10 different accounts that are wrapped into that $29 million. But the contents and structures are the main components of that.
If this isn't a model based on a 50-year probability, so you could have some bad years?
Yeah.
And you're talking about major floods?
Yeah, so we're including we're modeling up to a 500-year flood event, basically, or a 0.02% chance of it happening on an annual basis.
Okay. Compare that to Texas, since it's all fresh on the mind.
Yeah, Texas, I don't know what kind of flood event that was in terms of percentages.
300 year?
300?
Okay.
That was about a 300-year flood.
Possible. It's not likely, that's for sure, but it's possible.
Highly unlikely, but consequences are high.
Okay.
When that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And we even have, for each of we have 8 specific events that we modeled and a number for each of those. And then there's Monte Carlo simulations that produce the $29 million estimated annual damage. So we're using a 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, 25-year, 50-year, 100-year, and 500-year flood event in our model.
Okay. Do you guys scale these types of things as far as you consider them, obviously Texas is on everybody's mind, so I'm trying to not put that in my mind, but even small scale, you consider these crisis type of events? I mean, what are the intangible things that go with this? Not just the physical damages of having a flooded basement. I mean, we all understand that, and it is stressful. We've dealt with that, as council members and such, but what are other things?
I know that the structures that we considered for non-structural measures, like proposing to raise structures, those structures were being impacted in a 25-year event. So a more frequent event, a 4% chance of happening every year.
Like certain houses, in other words?
Yes, right.
That are in key spots that are low?
Right.
Okay. Okay. And then you're saying that those houses probably over a
50-year
might get hit a few times?
Correct.
Okay, so it's pretty tough to mitigate for that.
Yes, and
without buying the property and moving people on.
Right, and once you maybe hit a certain flood event, most things will be wet, but maybe it won't be as deep. So.
Okay. Okay. And then when you call a dry dam, you're not expecting that to fill up with water even though it's a creek area? Because that was one of the examples you used. Is it going to be a bigger creek?
I'll let Jane answer that one.
Yeah, if you take a dry dam and you're putting it in an area, it's already in a low point, so therefore, it's already has probably a creek. Is it going to be a bigger creek when you dam it, or is it just more of a spillover prevention type of thing?
So there will be a ponding area. We're anticipating that for about 24 to 48 hours, it would pond up to the 1% event or the 100-year storm, but then it will slowly drain back out.
Okay, so the creek would approximately stay the same, but during flooding or high rainstorms, it would fill up more.
Yes, correct.
We deal with a lot of that too, but we don't. Do you do any damming, Mr. Dunning?
I try to stay away from purely damming things up. That's where we get into detention, retention basins to capture that level of water and then slowly release it.
We make engineers do lots of retention and detention. Okay. All right. I'm just trying to get a big picture of this. So, Mr. Jacobs, basically you're on a information tour where you're educating everybody.
Yes, sir.
And you're trying to wave or sound the bell that we have to do something.
Yes.
If you want to mitigate for these damages and save a bunch of money over the long run. And eventually, not tonight, but eventually you're going to talk to us about options as far as how we would pay for the 65% that the federal would not pay for. Is that correct?
I'm hoping that any options that we can generate together so that it's not Tom and Mark saying, here's a bill.
Okay. Yeah, I understand, but you're talking to lots and lots and
yes, sir.
Lots of municipalities, but also lots of jurisdictions.
That's
not
right.
just cities. So it's going to be a team effort.
It will be indeed.
All right. Okay, I've got a couple questions from other council members. I'm going to pass to them. Councilmember Carlisle.
Thank you, Mayor. So do you have, I know you said that you have specifics for everything that you can speak to later, but do you have like specifics that you can show us through a presentation for Lee Summit so that anybody who may be watching or may want to watch later can better understand the specifics for Lee Summit in this?
In terms of which, the neighborhood which is being impacted and with the project, they would be removed. Yeah, we could, I don't have that tonight, but that is definitely something that we could give to Lee Summit.
Great. Could you just forward it to us and then we can
Yeah.
get it to the clerk and maybe she can add it?
Yeah,
to this
sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Additionally, when the draft report is released next month, all of these details are going to be included, so.
Yeah, thank you. I know me and I know other people and I don't think they're gonna wanna go through however many pages that report might be. So if we could just get specifics to our city on our site, that would be fantastic.
We will package that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. So I understand that the funding request would come later, but so it'd be the non-federal 35% that we'd be trying to solve for on the kind of regional level. And then what are typical ways that would happen? Are there any like state level funding sources, or is it just the municipalities that are coming up with that money?
I think we've got to look at anything that we can. You know, for example, I haven't had a conversation with them, but the State Conservation Department is well funded, and are there any conservation values that could be enhanced through the work that we're doing that might enable us? There are, you know, different cities have stormwater utilities. I know those aren't significant enough to address needs like this. There's an opportunity for the county to create a new parks and stormwater tax. There could be bonding opportunities. There could be, I don't know. I'm not sure where this necessarily goes, but we'd want to.
I was just kind of curious if it tends to fall more on the municipality, or if there can be like you're saying, like a regional, countywide something, or a statewide, or how that
we'd sure
tends
want to look
out.
at.
Yeah. Okay.
Look at that. The bonus here is that with so many jurisdictions that can perhaps spread the pain a little bit to take the hit off of any one particular community.
Yeah, it's definitely a large number to figure out.
Yeah.
Is it all within Jackson County?
Yes, it is. Well, there's a teeny portion of this watershed in Cass County, but virtually all of it's in Jackson.
Okay. Thank you. Those are all my questions, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I know this is really premature, but does any of the stormwater fee that we've been kind of discussing at Public Works, is any of this factored in that at all?
No, the local stormwater utility user fee is not considering this.
Okay, so as of right now, that one would just still be local, and then whatever we decide would be on top of that fee then?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Jacobs, again, this is a really good presentation and such. I think just showing how big this is over the course of time, not just annually, is maybe something to throw in there, because that's kind of the way we think. We're always trying to throw in, what's this really going to cost future council members? Because, and future citizens and taxpayers and such. So, because $29 million a year is a lot of money. So
it's a lot of money.
So mitigating for that, the sooner we get started in some form, the better.
Yeah.
So, just to kind of end this with what Councilmember Pryor was saying, it's definitely a regional issue. It's not just a Lee Summit thing. We're not going to be able to solve this just Lee Summit. Whatever we do, it's going to have to be in coordination and collaboration with other municipalities, the county, the state, and more. So you would say that, wouldn't you? Because it's too big to solve.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Okay.
And
I just want to make sure.
all of the participating communities have been meeting together roughly on a monthly basis for more than 3 years, and so we've been chewing on this and trying to figure out what makes sense.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming and presenting to us.
Thank you,
and
sir.
letting us know what we've got to start thinking about and planning for.
Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Pryor?
Sorry, I just noticed it. Why does it say Buckner's at 0?
Honestly, Buckner has not been involved in the study, but also I think their share of the estimated costs are just very, very small.
That's what I was thinking, but thank you.
All right, thank you. I think Clinton's would be really small too, because there's a lake and they just channel it all to the lake. Got to get my Clinton thing in there. Okay. We're going to get to some other serious business here. We got some public hearing, looks like. So I'm going to close the regular session and regular session and open the public hearing in the matter of Agenda Item 5A, Preliminary Development Plan, 150 in Ward Apartments, 3620 Southwest Ward Road. Milhaus Development is the applicant. Would all those wishing to speak to this matter please rise and be sworn in by the city clerk.
Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
All right. The applicant have a presentation? Mr. Peterson? Yeah, you're first.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This one was that guy. Thank you. Thanks. Kurt Peterson, 900 West 48th Place, Kansas City, Missouri, here on behalf of Milhaus Development. Devin Coffey is behind me, who's the Director of Development. The staff report, like usual, is very detailed and informative, and I know staff will give a presentation that will walk through a lot of the nuts and bolts that staff always analyzes for you. So I will not retread all of that ground. My goal instead is to highlight and augment some of the more important aspects of the project as you consider this PDP tonight, this Preliminary Development Plan, which is what is proposed. But at the outset, first, for the record, I would like to just say developer does agree with all of staff's proposed conditions of approval that are listed in the staff report that accompanies staff's recommendation of the project. So at the outset, I want to, I think for all of you, reintroduce this developer to you. This is Milhaus Development again. They are proposing this $60+ million community in the southern part of the city. Milhaus is a national developer that does have one of its key regional offices based here in Kansas City. They've completed 51 multifamily projects so far, with over $2 billion of projects that are currently under their management. They are vertically integrated, as we say, which means that not only do they design, develop, and construct these communities, but they also manage their communities. They have delivered 12 quality projects here in the Kansas City area. You can see them listed on the screen. Quality, as you consider this project, is not something that you need to be worried about, and I'm going to unpack that for several minutes to give you that confidence about this project. So on the screen in front of you, as you've seen in your packet, is the site plan. You can see in dark gray the 7 multifamily buildings, the 6 3-story buildings that are here on the north side. You have Arbor Walk Boulevard here, you have future commercial property to the south, and then you have Missouri 150. And then here you have the 4-story building that is up against the future commercial to the south. I always think in terms of quality, getting it a good engineered rendering gives you the best sense, unless you're really good at looking at site plans. So the next 2 pictures give you a sense of looking first to the south. So you're looking towards the future commercial. Beyond that, you can see in the background, you can see our 4-story building. You can see our clubhouse here, and then our 3-story buildings that surround all of that. And again, you're looking to the south, so you'd look to the future commercial, and then eventually be at the highway. Looking the other direction, back to the north, towards this master development, the Arbor Walk development, you can see our amenity area. You can see our 3-story buildings surrounding all sides. And eventually, again, looking north, you would get to the roundabout here and the rest of Arbor Walk. Hopefully this gives you a sense. Again, we're in the umbrella of quality right now to give you confidence about this project. The construction cost per dwelling unit, which is always something we look at and we say, how quality is this project, is when you compare to other high-end apartment projects that have been built in the city over the last about decade, is similar or higher than those other projects, as we looked at with staff. Next, looking at building materials, that's another measure, right? What really goes into this project? How can we assess the quality? So the building materials here are of high quality. We brought examples that you can see behind so you can touch and feel those. Primarily, the building materials are brick and various fiber cement elements, which are all the type 1 in every city, the best quality materials you can use. Fiber cement materials on this, in terms of architecturally, come in the way of panels, board and batten siding, and other ways that it's used. So in previous discussions with council about this project, someone asked about whether there were wood balconies and said, is that a high quality thing to do for a multifamily project? So I wanted to break that down. This is about the most micro I'll get on quality, just because it was specifically raised in the past. And you can follow along on the right side of the screen if you want to get even more detailed than my words. But in short, the balconies are framed in wood, just like the building. So that they are definitely fundamentally wood. But the base of each balcony is wrapped in fiber cement. The balcony surface itself is the decking, that is made of Trex, which most of us know about that. And then the balcony's posts, in each case, posts are pre-engineered wood, which, as many of you know from experience, has a higher durability, a greater resistance to moisture, and a higher cost than natural wood. So put it all together, very detailed, but it was asked about. These are high-quality balconies used on Class A multifamily communities all across Kansas City and the country. Now, again, why did I dive into the weeds there? To instill total confidence that whether we're talking about balconies or amenities or interior finishes, this is a high-quality project. So someone in our previous discussion also said, what is Class A? It came from this side of the room. It was a good question. And I answered that question at the time, but I thought, again, at our public hearing, we would hit what is a very, very good question. So what is Class A? Another way of saying is, what really is quality? So I pulled a definition of Class A from a real estate finance company. listed the website at the bottom if you want to go look at it yourself. And the attributes listed were things like newer, well-maintained, on-site staff, higher quality finishes, and definitely desirable amenities, all of which you know and see and seen the staff report fit the bill when it comes to this project. Now, I pulled some newspaper clippings from earlier this year from the Wall Street Journal. This was an article focusing on Gen Zers and what they want in their living these days. And remember, I always have to remember because I get confused at the alphabet soup on the generations. These are the 20-somethings. These are, for many in the room, these are children now in their 20s that are trying to figure out where they're going to live and whether they want to come home to Lee Summit and do they have a place that they want to live in and will live in. So what do they want? The answer is, as you can kind of see from these clippings, is that they want Class A, which, as this is especially emphasizing here, they want the amenities. And some of those amenities that they're listing include, and I'm not going to read every one on the screen, but for our project here, we have the fitness studio, the pet spa, the co-working rooms, and everything else you've come to expect in Lee Summit when we do Class A, high-quality projects. Now, I was told by one person who will stay anonymous on staff that the mayor will kick you out of the room if you stop on every one of these pictures. That, of course, was not the intent. I wanted it in the packet, but I'm literally spending 1 second on each of these pictures. These are all Milhaus communities that they built and that they manage that are on par with what we want to build here in Southerly Summit. All comparable projects, and what you'll see, whether it's the outside, the common space, the inside of units, you'll see quality. And I would just say, I think most of you would agree, when you've built 50-plus communities like this, track record or past predicts future. And that's what we'd have here. So next, I wanted to spend no more than 30 seconds, but it's important, but just for effect to say, also in the category of you can't make this stuff up, Milhaus has earned many awards. And so again, not going to read every one of these, but I'll put on the screen about 5 slides that are in your packet that you can see, which show that they've won awards locally and nationally, lots of them. Awards related to having best quality projects, best project management, best operations, best maintenance, best places to work, and on and on and on. So again, all of this that I just went through is to give you the highest level of confidence that this quality is a high quality project should it be built, which is what Lee Summit deserves. The next topic, Mayor, I wanted to address was something also in a previous discussion that was raised. Does this project have enough parking? And again, that's something, if you are to approve a PDP tonight, or at least first reading, that you should feel confident about that this has enough parking. Here's the reasons why we believe you should be entirely confident about that. Other cities, as you can see on the screen here, have parking ratios, and this proposed project is right near the top, meaning it's overparked compared to what other cities would require, other than you can see Lenexa would be an outlier. So that's, just look around to other similar cities or other cities at least in the area, and we provide more parking than is required. Also, staff has concluded that the project's parking is sufficient by looking at a number of places, and there's several pages in the staff report that I'm going to cover in about 15 seconds. But staff looked at other approved projects in Lee Summit and parking ratios there. The Urban Land Institute's recommendations for parking, looked at peer cities, which I mentioned a minute ago, and then also looked at the Institute of Transportation Engineers, that is ITE, parking generation manual, and all of that led staff to the conclusion that there's plenty of parking in this proposed project. I will also say anecdotally, but I think this has value when you've built 50-plus projects, that this parking ratio is in the range of what Milhaus nearly always builds across the states they're in, and empirically they have not had a problem, and they wouldn't spend $60+ million on something that would have a functional problem with parking. So just to show good faith and that Milhaus means it, again, you could hear from my presentation, we think we're far from ever needing more parking, but we worked with staff to identify places where it would chew up some green space. We do not want to do this, but if we should ever need functionally more parking, there's easily added about 30, you can see in red there, 30 additional parking stalls, and we even said to staff where we would probably put them. This is all good faith, showing if there ever was a problem, we could certainly have an easy solution. So you can have total confidence at the end of the day, as staff does, and they'll present and have in their staff report that there are sufficient parking proposed with this project. So there are two other issues I want to highlight, Council. One is traffic, and the other is stormwater when it comes to this preliminary development plan that you're considering tonight. These were probably the most common topics that were brought up during the 3 neighborhood meetings we had at the very end of last year into the first part of this year. So first on traffic. A professional traffic analysis was performed by the Kimley Horn firm, which is obviously very well known in Kansas City for doing this, and city staff has reviewed that study. The street network was found to be sufficient for this project. It was found that there'd be generated approximately 2 cars per minute during peak. Peak is the busiest hour in the morning and the busiest hour in the afternoon, rush hour, if you will. And there was about 2 cars per minute that would be generated by this project, which, as you imagine, is fairly low, certainly compared to retail or office or any other type of development. So this doesn't, as the study found, even trigger a signal there at the Ward intersection. They said maybe someday commercial could if it was put in, but not with this development. So again, overall traffic, just doing a high pass-through, just not something that is problematic at all from staff's or from the professional engineer's perspective. The other topic I mentioned was stormwater. There was lots of concern raised, I would say understandably, given the history of some folks downstream. This project is complying, I can assure you, with all city standards regarding stormwater, and there are a lot, which is why we have a civil engineer that has to draw up plans that show that they meet with the stormwater management plan all of the requirements the city has. And because this is a master development that we're wanting to develop within and has been around for 20+ years, there's a stormwater management plan that was established long ago, and this project is designed to meet all those requirements and fit within that plan. So most relevant to any concern about downstream impacts, this is the only time I will read one sentence from the staff report because I think it captures it, allows us to perhaps move to the next topic is, quote, staff says the development directing drainage to the existing system at the box culvert at 150 is both appropriate, adequate, and actually beneficial overall. Several closing issues before I stand for questions, Mayor and Council. One is just the context here of this PDP. This PDP is proposing over 270 multifamily units for residents in this community at a time when we have a housing shortage at all price points. Not a Lee Summit housing shortage, a Kansas City and a national housing shortage. We don't have enough housing units of all types and all price points, as has been seen from some of the city studies that I've seen recently. There are virtually no new multifamily product in the southern part of Lee Summit. Really the closest you can look to is a little bit to our east by Walmart, off to the west of Walmart, which is the Echelon project, which is now over approximately 5 years old. There's nothing else that's been built in this part of town. And yet we know there's a segment, as I alluded to earlier, of the population, specifically the Gen Zers and some lock and leave folks that want to and perhaps will only live in that type of housing. So nothing has materialized on this site. Putting up on the screen, you've seen this before, just the overall master development, the 20-plus-year-old Arbor Walk master development, penned by lots of single family, really what, 2/3 of the development, right? The two-thirds north of the, how do I say that? The northern 2/3, takes a minute. The northern 2/3 of the development is, single family, and it transitions towards the highway and has commercial, multifamily, and those uses sort of mixed in. So in 20+ years, where we are right here is for context, we're here, and then future commercial is here. There's nothing's happened. This has been unsuccessfully diligenced by many developers, and nothing's been able to happen at this site. So we're trying to break that trend after 20 years. These rooftops, which sometimes, residents, we use that synonymously in the commercial real estate industry, rooftops equal commercial, will help in the effort to bring more restaurants and quality retail to Southern Lee Summit, including very specifically all of the pad sites that the landowner, Mr. Christie, is planning just south of these apartments up against the highway. This will help. It's a massive driver, as commercial real estate brokers will tell you. They have to have residents, they have to have rooftops. And Mr. Christie, who his plane was running late, may be addressing that here just in a little bit if he arrives on time to tell you just how key that is to be able to bring quality restaurants and retail to Southern Lee Summit, specifically and down the corridor of it, specifically just south of these proposed apartments. The second row, as we call this, in a master development, which is, again, here, the second row, not the first row of commercial here, but the second row can be very hard to develop. It's certainly very hard to ever put commercial, as many of you know, and this is a textbook classic transition to have quality multifamily like this in between your single family to the north, your commercial to the south, and then ultimately the highway. So that's another just positive to take into account here. So with that, Mayor, Council, you may have questions now or later. After staff presents, I'd be happy to address those, but officially I would say we respectfully request tonight that you consider all these attributes of this project and hope that you will give it a positive first reading here tonight, this PDP. Thank you for your time.
You mentioned Mr. Christie. Did you say you wanted him to speak?
During the public hearing. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor, for asking.
All right. All right, thank you. No, we'll do staff, and then we'll go for questions.
Okay. Good evening, Adair Bright, Senior Planner. I'd like to enter into the record Exhibit A, list of exhibits 1 through 23.
Exhibit A, 1 through what?
23.
23. Please enter into the record.
The applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary development plan on 11.46 acres at 3620 Southwest Ward Road for development of a 272-unit apartment complex. The subject site is shown with the blue hatching, which is a part of a larger parcel shown with that purple outline. The property is zoned P mix and is located within the Arbor Walk Master Development Area, which includes a mix of uses such as attached and detached single-family dwellings, multifamily apartments, and commercial. Outside of the Arbor Walk development, much of the surrounding area contains detached single-family dwellings or is undeveloped. The future land use map identifies the subject property as commercial. Staff is supportive of a comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use map because the proposed use would help serve as a buffer between anticipated commercial to the south and lower intensity residential to the northwest. As previously mentioned, the subject property is within the Arbor Walk Master Development Plan, which was approved in 2003, where the subject site was shown as commercial. The proposal includes 7 multifamily apartment buildings, 2 garage buildings, and 1 clubhouse with amenities. The buildings range from 3 to 4 stories in height, with the only 4-story building proposed on the southern side of the site. The plan proposes an alternate parking plan, which is one of the 2 options outlined in the UDO to calculate parking requirements. The applicant provided a parking justification memo, which staff compared with the ITE parking generation manual. Staff is supportive of the proposed parking count of 1.74 parking stalls per dwelling unit for a total of 474 stalls. A traffic impact study was submitted and reviewed by staff, and no improvements are warranted. A storm drainage study was submitted and reviewed by staff as well. All stormwater requirements are being met with the previously approved and constructed regional detention from the Arbor Walk Master Development. The proposed buildings include 4-sided architecture with a mix of materials including brick, fiber cement siding, and board and batten siding. Neighborhood meetings were held on January 29th and February 26th of 2025. Questions and topics of concern included traffic, stormwater runoff, compatibility, and construction debris, which is consistent with the testimony given by residents at the Planning Commission meeting. The questions and comments from planning commissioners echoed those of residents, and additional comments included building architecture, screening of equipment, and landscaping. After planning commission, the applicant did provide revisions to meet the screening requirement for rooftop equipment. The applicant is requesting 4 modifications, including the M150 CDO elevator requirement, the M150 CDO entrance orientation standards, the M150 CDO building design standards, and the minimum parking lot setback from public right-of-way. Staff is supportive of the request due to the intent of the code being met and with the conditions of approval outlined here and in the staff letter, the application meets the goals of the Ignite Comprehensive Plan and the requirements of the UDO. The original condition 6 pertaining to screening of rooftop equipment has been removed since that requirement is now being met, and I am here for any questions that you may have.
Okay, before we get to questions from council, Mr. Denning, so I entered the exhibit into the record. Mr. Peterson's presentation, I usually pull up and look at these, so it was different. So can we get that into the record?
Yeah, I would agree. It's very similar to what was provided in the packets, but it was different. So I will work with Mr. Peterson to get what was presented tonight uploaded into the system for the public record.
Thanks. Okay, questions for applicant or staff? Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. Looking at the surrounding land uses, I think it was said it's lower density residential, but it's a lot of multifamily kind of to the north and northwest. Is that right? It looks like it's, I'm just looking at Google Maps. So I just want somebody to confirm that I'm right, like quadplexes, duplexes.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
So directly north is more townhome development, and then we also have duplexes and attached single
And then
family.
and then it looks like there's a little bit of commercial that has developed down there. Was it like a
little bit southwest from
gas
here.
station and bank and a couple small
Yes.
things like that?
Yes.
Okay. And then the plan is eventually to have commercial south of it between the apartments and the highway, but that would come to at a future PDP when they
Yes.
put that together?
Yes, they would come back for approval of that through a preliminary development plan.
But that's like the current master land use plan, right?
Yes.
Okay. And staff is in agreement on the infrastructure being sufficient in terms of the drainage and the road capacity and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, we do have staff here who could speak more to that, but it is noted in the staff report, we are supportive and in agreement with everything being.
I think those are all my questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Funk.
Thank you, Mayor. Probably a question for the applicant when you were talking about the number of properties they built. How many do they still own in Kansas City?
There's been I don't know the exact number. Some of them have been sold, and then a lot of them are still managed and operated.
So they don't really have intentions of keeping them?
Definitely do. And I start to forget which conversations we've all had together and which we haven't, so I apologize if this is repetitious, Councilman Funk. The whole business model of the developer is to design, construct, and then operate, because they have a whole team of, like you saw, award-winning operations folks. There are times, because they have an equity partner on every deal they do, like every developer client I have that does multifamily, and there are times with some equity partners that they have to liquidate, life events. It could be a lot of different reasons. And so that can happen on any given deal, but definitely the entire business model is set up with this vertically integrated company to develop, operate, and hold. But there's going to be exceptions for sure.
So the exception could be this could get sold.
Definitely could get sold for sure, but it is 100% true that is not the business model. That's worse off for this developer if that happens financially.
I know one of the M150 recommendations was the elevators. So there's only going to be 91 units out of the 270 that will have ADA access. So if those first 91 units go, then there's no other buildings that have ADA access.
So the requirement is a third of the buildings are to be elevated, and we made it a third of the units. So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of another, which is why staff supports that.
Okay, so there's no intentions of putting any elevators in any of the other buildings?
Nobody puts elevators in 3-story buildings, so it's only the 4-story building.
Okay, and no covered parking other than, 19 stalls, I think, is what's
We have
covered?
2 separate, we can pull it up if we want to look at it, but there's
But that
2
was
separate
19?
locations. I have to look at the exact number. Maybe staff can help me, but
So I think we were at 472 parking spaces with 19 covered?
20,
yeah, staff helps me out, 20.
20. Okay. That's all I have right now, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rader.
Thank you, Mayor. I just think I have a couple of questions here. When would they be starting the commercial construction?
So in a minute during the public hearing, Mr. Dave Christie, who owns the property we would purchase if we get the approval, and then owns all that ground to the south between us and the highway. And he'll be able to speak to that. But what you're going to hear him say, because I've worked with him for years and years, and he's the expert in retail, he's got to have more rooftops. So this would need to get developed, and usually you're not going to get the high quality retail and restaurants until you're near opening or opened. So call that Councilwoman Rader. He can speak to it, but call it 2.5 years from now, because you got to get through a 24-month build and all that.
This might be a question for, let me see before I let you go. Yeah, for staff. Reading through the packet, there was a statement that said about was the runoff to Raintree over detained was the verbiage that was used. Can somebody explain what that means?
I will defer to Sue Piles if she could come up. For stormwater and drainage. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, there was a statement that was part of the packet. Runoff to Raintree over detained, was that addressed?
Yes. The way Sue Piles, Development Engineering Manager, the way the Arbor Walk detention for the overall project in the preliminary development plan and how that was constructed, all of the drainage was accounted for in an area on that development that's already been constructed. So this project is already being accounted for in that. It's a large area, and to do it any other way, you'd have to have a drainage basin right down in the corner, and that doesn't make it much of an amenity like they wanted on this one. So they've over-detained upstream and not detaining here, so that when it leaves the overall Arbor Walk area, it meets the requirements. Does that make sense?
Well, so Raintree was concerned with that runoff. So you're saying that what you're saying is going to solve the problem, and Raintree shouldn't be worried about future runoff, stormwater runoff to their area?
Yeah, we had the engineer confirm that the original stormwater study did take into account their area. We had them confirm that the existing structures downstream were adequate and will not have any negative impact from their drainage, and also had them analyze that the peak flow, which is kind of the quantity of water going through at one time, is not being increased. And then we also had them at the time that Arbor Walk was done, there was no water quality requirements, and we've had them add water quality requirements to their development.
Okay, thank you. And then one more, I don't know who would be able to answer this one, but they were talking about the pond would be dredged and cleaned up, and that the owner and the developer, so is that, in those cases, is that something that we put in the development agreement, or how do we know that gets taken care of?
As far as a stormwater requirement, that's not part of the stormwater report requirement. So I'd have to confer with our planners to see how that works with the development agreement.
Okay.
Good evening, Amy Nassif, Deputy Director of Development. We'll look into that for just a minute or two for you while we're going on to other questions, if that's all right, and then we'll come back.
Okay, and while we're going back to the runoff Raintree, is this currently what we're doing with this project, or is this things that we've done in the past and it's?
As far as over detaining upstream, yeah, that's a common engineering practice when you have a large scale development. is that you account for detention for the overall site in one area, and depending on where that area happens to be within the site, it could be upstream, it could be downstream, it just depends. But that's a very common and appropriate way to handle detention and drainage issues on a large-scale project.
But we're talking about this project.
Yeah, it's completely appropriate.
Even though it affects Raintree, it will potentially affect them, or could potentially affect them.
Well, they are not going to be increasing the peak flow down to Raintree. It's already been accounted for in the design, so they're meeting what the requirements of that project is, the overall project.
Okay, I think I got that. All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Thanks, Mayor. More so continuing questions with staff. So what's up on the screen right now are the approval conditions. Can you explain a little bit more about number 5? Why that is a request going to 0?
Yes, so if you can kind of see here, that right-of-way line is circled in red and then pointed to in yellow. So the roundabout right-of-way cuts very far south into the site, and instead of vacating the right-of-way, we were requesting a modification to allow for that parking lot. We consider any kind of parking lot to be the parking stalls along with any driving surface associated with that parking lot.
Okay. And can we show a site plan rendering of the entire site? And if you can show us where that is on that site plan?
Yes. So it's up here to the north. And so you can kind of see currently the roundabout pavement ends here where it's still kind of white. Everything that's in gray would be what the applicant would be proposing to construct. But that right-of-way comes all the way down with this dash line into the site, which is not very typical. So henceforth the modification.
Okay, I appreciate that. So sticking to the theme about traffic flow, I mean, I've driven Southwest Arbor Walk Boulevard. It's not a super wide thoroughfare. And it seems like the traffic flow within the development it's tight with all those structures that are being planned to be constructed. So you're saying, and so then and I looked at the traffic study somewhat also. So what is the access for an emergency situation for like a pumper truck to come through there? What are the main access points, egress, ingress to the site?
Just to the site in general, they would have 2 points of access, one here off of the roundabout at Arbor Walk Boulevard, and then there would be one over here. We can pull up the actual full plan set. So if you could see here where it there's a second access point there. So any emergency vehicles would be able to enter at either of those access points.
So, so emergency vehicles can come in off of 150 onto Arbor Walk Boulevard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there would be an opportunity to come, I guess, going westbound to turn in, going westbound. How would they turn? What's their access if they're coming eastbound?
They would go up Ward and then come into Southwest Arbor Walk Boulevard and roundabout, or continue down and come in through that access point.
Okay. So then, sticking to this topic, if there is an emergency, if you're taking Arbor Walk Boulevard and going back out towards Ward, vehicles can't make a left there anyway, right? Is there a median in the middle of Ward? I can't remember. There's not. Okay. So there would be access north, either direction, north or south, from the boulevard. Okay. But for now, off of 150, that's the only access point down below.
There would be, yes, it would be over here at the light. There's a traffic light over just to the east of the gas station and car wash area.
And so I know the traffic study said this complies within traffic study criteria and requirements, But for future development, like if the commercial site was developed, that really wasn't addressed in the traffic study. So how does that get impacted when there's more traffic coming through there?
Right, my understanding from that, and I don't know if Michael Park could speak to it, would be that an additional traffic study would be required at the time of development of that site.
Good evening, Michael Park, Director of Public Works. Very good question. So the traffic study did show in our reviews that it meets all of the city standards for levels of service, as well as the state had done its review and concurred with the study's conclusions. With regard to future assessment, there is likely a need for some sort of improvement somewhere around there for support of the impact of commercial growth. That commercial development will come back through this public process. It will require its own update of the traffic studies, and those conditions could be placed on that development if indeed that development does warrant mitigations like traffic signal installations.
Okay, so then, again, sticking to that same theme, traffic flow in and out of that place and within the actual development. So the study also indicated there could be future stoplights, signal lights somewhere.
So
Where would those be?
That would be at the intersection of Arbor Walk Boulevard and Ward Road. Currently, it's full access. If you've been out there, it's kind of a larger intersection. When Arbor Walk was initially planned 20 years ago, it had intended to have a signal at that location, as all this area would have been commercial. It hasn't developed that way. You heard the applicant give a little brief history of it's been waiting a long time. And so reducing the densities from those commercial uses to these residential uses has deferred some of those improvements a little bit further out, but the traffic study that was done anticipated continued commercial growth as the original plan had projected, just south of here between the apartments and 150 Highway.
Mark, everybody keeps talking about just south of, just
Sorry,
east of.
Can you see my cursor?
No, we need an aerial map. It's so much easier for us to see an aerial map. So just pull up Google Maps, preferably Google Maps, because they're easier for us to relate to. You can pull up your software if you want, but when you look at this area, like you're talking about, Mayor Pro Tem's asking, where's the stoplight going to be to the east?
And that's exactly, I wanted to see that.
Yeah.
Just Google. Just Google Maps? Or?
Just any map. Okay, so here's a little bit further out. So you got a traffic signal down here at Stony Creek and 150. Over here, signal going in, and here was planned to be a signal. You see there's already striped out 2 left turn lane, 1 just in function right now. This is where we would anticipate in the future a traffic signal would be built in accordance with the original plan when development drives the need for that signal, when it becomes warranted. Under the original plan, all of this was commercial here that's been undeveloped. Obviously, that didn't come, that's not before you right now. So because it's not commercial, it's residential, the traffic demands are less. And so the need for that signal through their study has been shown not now. Future phase, when the rest of the commercial comes in, it becomes reassessed, gets presented to you again with whatever development gets proposed between what's currently planned just north of this line and 150 Highway. At that time, we'll know whether or not it's service-oriented commercial, retail, if it's more office-type commercial. Those kind of factors will play into whether or not a traffic signal is put in.
Okay, so I appreciate Mayor requesting this aerial.
And there is a traffic light right there?
So there's a traffic signal here.
Yeah.
There's a traffic signal right here.
Okay.
The other entrance into this development is about right in this area. And then obviously off the roundabout here.
And so currently in this development plan that's being proposed, nothing's being addressed on the commercial side there on the south end.
Correct.
Adjacent to 150.
No commercials being addressed. In fact, the development before you tonight is not using the access that's been pre-built, if you will, for development in this area. That's this, which is a right in, right out. Due to the median, that would go straight into the commercial area, not into the apartments. And this right in, right out would go straight into commercial area, not apartments. This one would go right into commercial area, not apartments.
Okay. Could you scroll up on Ward? So I asked earlier if there was a median. So there is a median there.
So there's not a median at this intersection. So the median opens up.
The other proposed entrance to this site, on this site plan?
So there's no other access to this site plan from Ward Road. There's a driveway that it kind of curls around, and let me see if I can pull that up. It comes in here. Let me go to, sorry, here. So you can see that's that right in, right out that I just showed you. It comes down here and it comes down to the commercial area. It doesn't provide any access to the apartments that are proposed. So that right there is the existing turn lane, an existing cut, and they're kind of got it grayed out because it's part of a future project.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate that. I think that's all the questions I have for now, Mayor. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. I know that you didn't know how many they still were holding on to or maintained ownership in Kansas City. Do you know, out of all the projects they've done, how many they still own?
Good evening. I looked at that when we had our last conversation, and the way that I can remember it is that if you think of it in terms of total, not units, but total investment, whatever it was, several $1 billion, whatever, for all the projects, it was something like plus or minus 70% still owned in terms of total investment. So that gives you at least an order of magnitude. I don't remember the exact number of projects, but so it was still most. But there's certainly, to Councilman Funk's point, there will always be some projects that for whatever reason end up having to be sold.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Councilmember Pryor, you good? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, other questions? Yeah, Councilmember Carlisle.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I was just going through my questions to see what's been answered, but, so as far as the parking goes, you said you have 1.74 parking units per dwelling, correct? Somebody? Just give me a nod, I'm good. Okay, okay, so this might be for developer, sorry, I didn't look at the second part of my question. How many, can you give me the breakdown of 1, 2, 3 bedroom units?
For sure. So it says studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom.
The studio, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
it'll say numbers. So with the most being the 1 and 2 bedrooms, the studios are estimated at 20, 1 bedrooms at 124, 2 bedrooms at 112, and then 3 bedrooms at 16. So summarizing again, there's all 4 unit types, with most of them being 1 and 2 bedroom.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, you've covered a lot of ground. Yes.
Good evening. I just wanted to follow up with Councilman Rader's question. The reason, there is no requirement for the developer to have to clean or drain the Raintree lake or the pond. And because the detention is just pass through for them right there, there was no association or requirement there from city staff. The applicant had not agreed to do anything like that either. I think what happened was someone did make mention of it during the Planning Commission public hearing, but that was just during the statements during the comments of the hearing.
Yeah, it was, and that's why I wanted to address it, to see if,
Oh, okay.
if there's real concern there.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. The only thing I wanted to clarify, lots of good questions from council. Very good, thank you. But on the, I always try to think of other examples in the community, when we do anything. So I'm going to ask Mr. Dunning and Mr. Elam maybe too. But Mr. Dunning, you've been here longer. So on the whole elevator thing, I'm just trying to picture, I haven't been in enough apartments that were built in the last 20 years to know which ones don't have elevators. So I'm just trying to picture where I've been, like people that I know type of thing. So like I'm trying to picture Summit Ridge, I think it is, would be Tudor, I think. Do those have have elevators? I can't remember.
No.
They don't?
No.
Okay,
I
didn't
don't
think
believe
so.
they do.
Because I've been there a few times. Go ahead, Mr. Lim.
No, I think the applicant is correct in that elevators typically come in at the 4-story mark, and many of the garden-style apartments that were built, I'll say definitely pre-2014, I don't believe any have elevators. And
I think those are 4-story though, aren't they? Summit Ridge?
4-story and above would have elevators.
Oh, they would?
Yeah, the code requirement.
Okay. So the ones that are 3 levels probably don't.
Correct. Yeah, and I know at Echelon in particular too, I think that they have one building that's got an elevator and then the rest of the 3 stories don't. So it's a fairly common practice.
Okay.
Mayor, Ryan's correct. It's based on building codes. And it also depends on what building code was adopted at the time that was constructed. So you may have a mix, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Right. Makes sense. Thanks. Okay, so we'll have time for more questions if you want to think about things, but let's go ahead and open this up. So we're at the point where we're going to allow people to speak in favor or in opposition to the application. I have some people signed in. For public hearings, you don't actually have to sign in, so if you didn't sign in, it's still okay to speak. So I just want to let you know that. I don't really mind whatever order you all would like to speak, other than, please stay focused on the development. That's all. 3 minutes. And there's a list of people here, so do you want me to call out names, or does anybody like to go first? Yeah, please come forward.
I was here in May. At the May meeting, I focused on variances.
Can I ask your name, please?
My name's Kelly Bride.
Thank you.
At the May meeting, I focused on variances the developer was requesting for a smaller number of parking spaces, density, the 4-story building being too tall, and the Raintree detention pond needing to be cleaned out. Also at that meeting, I heard several new items that the developer wants, and I'm going to focus on 4 of those tonight. So number 1, the developer is asking the city to issue over $64 million in industrial development bonds to finance this project. So what
That'd be the second public hearing that we're going to have. So I just want to make sure you understand, we talk about that in the next public hearing. So it'll be another opportunity for you, but.
Okay,
if you
well, I
wanna-
guess so we're their equity partner?
That'd be, first off, you get to make comments, but it's
Okay.
not a back and forth. Second off, that's the
Okay.
second public hearing, and you'll get a chance to speak to that then.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to say is that at last check, our county faces the real possibility of the Kansas City Chiefs and the Royals leaving the county in 3 years. So if that happens, Jackson County has nothing to lure new residents and businesses. And I guess all my points are going to go to that because I wanted to talk about
You can go
construction.
ahead, it's fine. Go ahead and speak to those. It's just
Okay.
that, I just wanted you to know that the second hearing is about that.
I think residents don't know this. They don't know this. Where are they supposed to go and find this? It was hard for me to find this. So I heard about it in the meeting, and then that's how I did a little bit of research to find out that, and I know it's a common thing for construction materials to be exempt from sales and use tax, but we don't have any kind of a sales tax holiday for residents to repair their properties or build their homes. They don't get any kind of exemption. And I'm really, and again, this is the big one for me, are the payments in lieu of taxes, that they want the $1,600 per unit for 10 years.
Well, we
with-
haven't heard that presentation. So you're doing a presentation
I'm
that we
looking at the
haven't heard
chapter
yet.
100.
That's
Yeah.
the next presentation.
Okay.
And you'll get a chance to speak during that one too. And then
Okay.
and then we can address, we can actually ask
Well,
questions.
I'm getting ahead of it because I
Yeah.
think the council, it should be addressed with residents so you guys know, well, do we?
It's my meeting that I need to try to put it in order so that it makes sense for the citizens and for the council. So that's why I'm pointing these things
Well,
out.
then, how about the mitigation of the land for $3.6 million to
That'd be the
5?
second presentation.
Okay.
If this got approved right now, we wouldn't be approving those items in this hearing.
Okay, well, Devin is here, so I'm sure she can tell you how many units they own, not the percentage, but how many units they do still own right now, so you can ask her, she's right here. And I would also invite you to drive by and look at the detention pond at Raintree. I live on Sunset Cove. I have pictures, I'll send them all to you tomorrow because right now, it would just all get clogged up in the mud and the trees and the dirt. It needs cleaned out.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, I guess I'll be back
Yeah,
next time.
you can, it's fine. It'll make a lot more sense next time around.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Rochelle Vandiver, and I am the General Manager of Raintree Lake Property Owners Association, located at 825 Southwest Raintree Drive in Lee Summit, Missouri. I appear before you this evening not to oppose development, but to advocate for responsible growth that sustains and enhances the quality of life in our neighborhoods. Our goal is to preserve and support thriving communities that remain attractive, livable, accessible to current and future residents through strong neighborhoods and diverse housing options. According to the city's Strong Neighborhoods and Housing Choices initiative, our community supports, with you guys, friendly, welcoming, and community-minded neighborhoods, preservation and protection of existing housing, neighborhood character of its both charming and elevated, support for residents to age in place, and availability of affordable and diversified housing. The city's development guide serves as a vision for future growth and is a vital resource for developers. It emphasizes the importance of preserving Lee Summit's high-value resources, parks, open spaces, wooded areas, streams, lakes, and rivers for future generations. At Raintree Lake, we take this mission seriously. Our lake remains a whole-body recreational water source and a critical natural asset for the community. The city's sustainable environmental goals include protecting and enhancing the natural environment, preserving air and water quality, reducing land pollution and resource consumption, and minimizing climate change impacts and increased waste diversion. These goals directly relate to our watershed concerns. In September of 2023, Raintree Lake submitted a stormwater engineering study to the city, completed in July of 2023, outlining our concerns regarding the sediment basin at Raintree Lake Village. To date, this basin remains impaired and full of silt. Sunset Cove's water quality is also declining, and we've attached recent E. coli test results to support this concern. You should have had that. Currently, we are undertaking a $500,000 dredging project in Hidden Cove, which collects runoff from Lee Summit Junior High and elementary schools, Windermere, Missouri 150, and several surrounding streets in Raintree Lake. This pond has been dredged 3 times since 1991, each time due to increased silt from upstream development. Now, the 2 new developments, including Arbor Walk East, converting previous land into rooftops and parking lots without proper water detention. This is a threat to Sunset Grove, and it's growing. There is no current plan for downstream silt management, and the sediment basin is already full. Additionally, a proposed dog park will directly contribute to E. coli contamination in the lake, further jeopardizing recreational water quality. A new stormwater basin is necessary to slow water velocity, contain pollutants, reduce runoff volume, and protect downstream property values.
Ms. Vandiver, your time is up. I'll let you finish real quick.
Raintree Lake? I'm not an individual, I'm speaking for a group.
No, you've got your 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'll let you go for another minute.
Okay, I should finish by then.
Okay, thank you.
Arbor Walk apartment design. The original plan for the manor homes of Arbor Walk called for mansion-style apartments with individual garages totaling 324 units and 432 parking spaces. That is 157 spaces above ordinance requirements. According to a presentation by Mr. Gale, the intent was to avoid the appearance of standard apartment complex. What has changed to now allow a higher density complex? Ward sediment basin maintenance. It was suggested during a previous meeting that a maintenance agreement exists for the Ward sediment basin. However, the current property owner disputes this. How can new development legally discharge into a basin on someone else's property without a formal agreement for ongoing maintenance? Finally, we have questions regarding the traffic study, which used to evaluate this development, and there's a debate over the time and place of whether the streets were closed or whether when they did their traffic study. I'll put it in short. In summary, we respectfully ask the council to protect our watershed, address water quality concerns that affect our recreational lake and public health, clarify development changes and enforce existing agreements for sediment control, ensure accurate traffic assessments, and preserve the natural resources that define our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, who would like to go next? Come on forward, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Chloe Baldini. I reside at 1110 Southwest Arbor Park Lane. I am the closest property to the proposed apartment complex. Before I get into why I oppose this apartment complex, just about me. I'm going into my 12th year as a teacher for the Lee Summit School District. I love this community. I loved it so much that I chose to move here with my husband and small child 5 years ago. We have then, since then, had 2 more children. We are very invested in this community. I love this community. I have sent most of you an email already detailing my concerns and all that. I'm not going to waste your time and read it again. The one thing I am not opposed to development of this land. If you've driven by this land, honestly, right now it's an eyesore. It really is. The trees were all uprooted. It's a pile of dirt. It looks terrible. But I am opposed to the way that this has gone about. I am opposed to the height of the buildings. It does not fit with our community. I'm opposed to the parking situation. I'm afraid that my street, it is a private street. The city can't do anything about it. I've been told that. I'm afraid that I'm gonna have just, cars in front of my house that's literally 12 feet from my door. Another thing is the traffic study. Please look at it. I know they say that it's fine and everything is done. Last time the actual trip counter, I believe, was in 2022, was when the original one was done. And then I think they just added percentages based on the residential growth in the area. I can see that intersection. I don't recall seeing any trip counters since 2022. And then finally, like I said, I'm not opposed to developing the area. I want it developed. It looks terrible. I'm just going to be honest with you. But I really feel like it needs to be done the right way. If you've seen the new Raintree Village, just right down the road, it's across from the old Manor Home Apartments. It looks beautiful. It fits right in with our community. They use the elevation, they use the slope. It is 3 stories, but they use the elevation to their advantage, and you can't even tell. So whoever did that development, bravo, it was beautifully done. I just hope that they take the care to develop this project that way. So, thank you.
Thank you. I think BC Millet. Yep.
Hi, I'm BC Millet. I also am a resident of Raintree Lake, and I am concerned about the water runoff getting into our lake. Even though I don't boat on it, I don't even fish in it, I don't swim in it, but it's still a lake and it needs to be preserved correctly. And frankly, I just don't see those apartments being there. They need to be, like the last lady said, they need to be blended in and look like apartments, to look correctly. That's all I have. But thanks.
Thank you. James Folk.
Hello, my name is James Folk. I live on Ward Road. I do back up to Raintree Lake and have been there since before there was water in the lake. And One of the things about the watershed that I want to talk about is we talk about meeting requirements for building, but I've noticed in the last 10, 15 years that our lake is filling up with sediment, and it's millions of dollars a problem for Raintree homeowner association. And adding all this runoff construction, putting up a little silt fence doesn't seem to do the job. And the other thing I want to talk about is up by the Echelon Apartments, anybody that's got a truck and a trailer and all that stuff parks all over, I believe it's Hollywood Drive. So it sort of looks like a construction lot up that way, and those people are going to probably park in your neighborhood. So when those residents live there, that's where all those things are going to go. And I think it's too much for our area. I also don't like any of the incentives that they have because I paid the sales tax on the parts and things that I put into my house. So I think it's just a little too much. And if we're talking about the safety of the community, you know, I was coming home when there was about 75 cop cars down at Echelon just a few weeks ago. So that sort of rammed up 150 for me. And I just don't think it fits into our neighborhood out there to put this many units out there where there's really not that many amenities yet. So that's what I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that didn't maybe sign in, because I don't have any more names to call? Those were all opposed. Yes, in favor? Come on forward.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. David Christie. Apologize for being late, returning from a vacation. We're just really excited about being here. I look at what the Streets of Pryor has turned into with Matt Pennington, who is my partner. I owned 80% of that project, and Matt bought me out. And he built those apartments, and then once he built the apartments, he got the restaurants and he got the retail that you all were wanting. And that's what happens. That's the natural progression in development. And that's why we'd like these apartments here. If this area would support 20 acres of retail, I would probably do the retail. But I'm working with small grocery stores to service the needs of the community on the corner. I'm working with restaurants. Currently, we're doing, when I built over 1 million square feet in Belton, I've added 20 restaurants there. We're now building an Olive Garden. We're building a brand new to market facility in Belton. This is what we do. It's our expertise, so we're excited about that. I also want to share with you on the incentive side, and I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but the applicant came to me and said, we have problems with the cost. We're asking for assistance from the city, and I volunteered a substantial reduction in the purchase price to make this deal, because that's how important it is to me to have 900 to 1,000 residents living there, shopping in my development. We were responsible for Raintree Village. Those are partners of mine. I'm the one that brought them to this market, and they did an amazing job, just like we will do an amazing job with the retail. And we promise we're going to make the commitments to bring quality retail, basically specialty grocery stores who we're working with, and restaurants. And that's what the city wants, so you can pave your streets and do the things that you need to do, because the apartments don't do it. The apartments pay taxes, but the sales taxes is how you all survive. So I'm asking for your support of this project. Milhaus is well respected. I've talked to cities all over Kansas City who have built, and they've hung in here with me and said, when the timing's right, the city wanted to conduct this feasibility study on how many apartments we need. We waited for that. So this is going on 2 or 3 years now. And I think it's time that we take a piece of property. Mr. Gale is a phenomenal developer, but he didn't follow through with the things that he needed to. We didn't even have a homeowners association signed up and approved. So all the conditions and everything that were supposed to be approved by the homeowners association, there was no homeowners association because Mr. Gale failed to do that. So we're trying to come in and fix a broken project, and we'd appreciate your courtesy.
All right, thank you, sir. All right. We're going to keep moving. So with that said, I'm going to go back to council at this point. Are there any questions for staff or applicant? Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. This is probably for staff. As far as the drainage side goes, I know you're always accounting for flow rates, making sure that you're not causing flooding, basically, that you're holding in water long enough, releasing it slowly enough that you're not generating additional issues with flooding in the area. But some comments were brought up about silt and pollution and that kind of thing. How is that accounted for in these studies? And would there be any difference between a commercial development and a residential development and what kind of runoff they would generate for that kind of thing? Can you opine on those?
Yeah, the calculations involved in that take into account what the surface is, whether it be concrete or grass or whatever. So it's not really commercial versus non-commercial. It's actually what the surface is. So every bit of that is taken into account in those calculations. As far as the water quality goes, we do have water quality. A water quality aspect is required, but we don't have specific. We don't test the water or anything like that. We don't have those kind of controls as part of our requirements. Most of the siltation issues come up during the construction period, and that's taken care of by our erosion and sediment control monitoring. It's not really a part of the storm drainage study.
Okay. And so long-term, the difference between having a property built up like this with some buildings and some parking lots versus having an empty field, is there much of a difference in terms of how much particulate runoff silt is generated from that?
As far as silt goes, it's really hard to quantify. It depends on, when you compare an open field, what the surface is, what kind of growth there is, those kind of things. But I will say that this project, this development is putting in multiple water quality features to try to at least, alleviate as much as they can of what may be coming off their surface at this point in time. Also, the existing design of the upstream detention basin accounted for this area as it was developed, proposed to be developed as commercial, which would be mostly paved. So that is accounted for in the overall drainage study.
Okay. And then this question is probably for the developer, or the applicant. There were some questions about elevators and access, ADA requirements. So if you have someone who needs an ADA unit, how is that handled? Do they just request that I need an ADA unit, and either there's one available or they're put on a wait list, or like how does that work if there isn't one immediately open? Or
So I will say this, having had a lot of experience with this over the last 2 decades, no matter where you are, because we're talking federal issues, FHA and ADA, so I'm not going to go into the deepest of weeds. There's people that this is what they do for a living, but you do have to make reasonable accommodations, not have to. That's it. You take reasonable accommodations to be able to make sure people are served, and that has pages and pages of what reasonable accommodations are, but it gives you the spirit of it. Federal law does require that you take that into account.
I mean, I guess I just wondered on like a day-to-day operational basis, and maybe it's not entirely relevant to this. I think they're all kind of handled the same way. I guess I'm just sort of curious, like if you have someone at one of your properties who wants an ADA unit, how long does it typically take to get them in one if there's not one immediately available or that kind of thing?
Typically, and this is getting into
I know like you could put in, like my mom has needed this before, and like her, apartment manager was great about installing a handicap sign, giving her assigned parking and all that. But I'm just curious if there's like not a ground floor or an elevator served unit, is there usually a long wait for that or?
So typically in my experience, there is sometimes some of the units there's be combinations made, but oftentimes the first floor units, some number of them are designed, and sounds like you have experience with this, are already designed with wider widths and bars in certain places and bathrooms and things like that. But if not, reasonable accommodations at time means putting
having
those
a third of units that are accessible by elevator tends to be enough to meet those needs.
Right, exactly.
Okay. I think that's all of my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any further questions. Does the applicant care to make any further comment?
No, Mayor, thank you.
All right, thank you. Hearing no further testimony, I'm closing the public hearing and reopening the regular session. Is there any council discussion on this application? Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. So, I appreciated the presentation. I appreciate the thorough work that the applicant and staff did on the issues of traffic and drainage. And I do appreciate the public coming out and asking some good questions that we were able to get some more clarity on. Overall, I think this is a good development in that I think we do need more housing choices for folks. And I do hear from a lot of friends, neighbors, constituents that live in Raintree that they want to see more amenities, more shopping, more restaurants, and it's really hard to get that there without the rooftops going in, as has been said. So I like this coming in and then hopefully bringing with it in relatively short order some more retail and grocery and restaurant opportunities, as has been stated. As far as some of these other questions, I think with some of the concerns about runoff and traffic, developing part of this as residential, I think if anything mitigates some of that you have less trips generated from these units than you would having this entire area as commercial, even though I think that would still be beneficial to the area, having more commercial options. But it seems like some of those options, if you had more paved area, more runoff, if you have more commercial, more traffic. So I feel like, if anything, this kind of meets what's needed, and it is the corner of a highway and a major road. Something should develop there. And I think this is a good transition from the highway and the future commercial into the duplexes and fourplexes that are behind there. It makes a good transition. They put the tallest building closest to the freeway and the smaller buildings closer to the multifamily, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So I think overall, I understand some of the concerns that I've heard, but I feel like they've been well addressed, and I'm not an engineer, and I have to rely on the engineers and the city staff that advise us to tell us that this does have adequate drainage, adequate parking, adequate traffic flow. And so I'd have to trust their professional expertise and then just weigh, is this a development that makes sense for the city? And I think that it does. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rader.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to share some thoughts and comments that I have after hearing everybody, and also share my personal experience with Arbor Walk. So I've done a lot of work out there. I've sold a lot of homes in Arbor Walk, and I know a lot about that subdivision. I was, myself was very concerned about the comments that were made by the residents. But I just want to say that I feel like this project is too high density for that corner. I think what would better be served there would be something like the manor homes. If we're going to have apartment type area, that is much more conducive to the area. It's much more architecturally compatible with the area. I just worry about the fact that it's right there on the corner. Arbor Walk has always had a beautiful entrance there. It's wide open, it's welcoming. You do have the townhomes. You do have a very eclectic and different kind of neighborhood. I mean, there's just nothing like it in Lee Summit. And I would like to think that we're going to keep that consistent. The concerns of the stormwater is a concern. I think Raintree has major concerns there, and we hope that they're going to be addressed, but it looks like they've got problems. The parking, I will tell you that if there's not enough parking spaces, and you probably all know it, they're going to park along Arbor Walk lane there in the beginning, and they're going to park in front of those houses that are there currently. I'm concerned about property values there when you have apartments right next to a residential area. Done real estate a long time, and that's always an objection when people buy a home. Do they want to be next to an apartment complex? So I think that we need to continue to listen to the concerns of our residents and make that our priority. And I think that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I completely echo everything Councilmember Rader just said, but the parking does concern me. At one time, they thought there was plenty of parking at Echelon. On 2 separate occasions, I've driven down the street, Hollywood Boulevard, right next to Echelon, and there's not enough parking. I mean, there's a couple semi-trucks that were there one night when I went. There were semi-trucks, there were cars, there were regular trucks, and there was like a couple RVs, one RV. So both occasions, there have been plenty of cars parked. So I don't want to see that bleeding into Arbor Walk. Also, Mr. Peterson mentioned that past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior, which ironically, I've been reading a lot of reviews from Milhaus, and based on past behavior, they don't have fantastic reviews online. As a matter of fact, one third-party site, they're rated a D, and then it goes on, there's 111 reviews as to...
Councilmember, if we could stay, like, you're doing fine other than going to the reviews. We probably need to shy away from that.
But it's an opinion, right? Or is it not? Okay, well, okay, well, then, I guess... So public hearing, then I can say that, or no?
We are out of the public hearing, so you can give your opinions, but I'm just saying for the council, Mr. Head, like, when we start getting into this, Mr. Bushek, we're talking about a PDP. We're talking about a PDP. We're not talking about...
Well, it's important in any public hearing you have that the council make its decision based
I'm outside the public hearing, though.
Correct, but you're talking about making a decision based upon the record that's in front of you, and that is the requirement. Nobody put into record the fact that there are reviews that exist out there. So what I'm saying is that's not really an appropriate thing for you to make to determine your vote when it's not inside the public
My vote's
hearing.
not determined on that.
I understand. But if I were someone who wanted to sue the city, I would say, well, this person brought up this and it wasn't in evidence. So I would be very careful using things that come from outside of the public hearing and the evidence that you just heard. You heard lots of things from the residents that are
But also my...
for you to talk about.
Okay. Okay, well, then I guess, I don't know. That's all that I have to say then.
I'll come back to you. Let me go to another council member, and I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure that we stay in our scope right now. Councilmember Hodges.
Thank you. So I guess to stay in the scope, I guess whatever I said last hearing or whatever that was when they were here last time, that should be in record, right? So I can refer to all of those statements.
I don't know that they were precisely on this record, but they are in record before the city council. So I think you would be okay saying that.
Okay. So that's what I will address. So I think it would go along with what Councilor Pryor was trying to say, is that, you know, your reputation, in which I would refer to that as what I had addressed last time they were here. So what I'm going to base mine off of, I'm not a fan of how this looks. I don't think it's appropriate for this area. I'm not anti-apartment necessarily in this area to bring more development. I guess I'm saying I don't want this developer here. I'm just going to be very blunt. I'm very disappointed in the fact that Ms. Coffey couldn't come up here and apologize for what was said last time. No eye contact ever gets made. And if that's a reflection of who the developer is, I want no part of it in this city. I had a conversation with Mr. Peterson after that last one. He told me, Ms. Coffey would like to call you and apologize. I said, no, I don't need her to call me to apologize. It wasn't against me. It was against the citizens who attended those meetings. It's against the people we represent, and it was against the council as a whole. So the fact that you couldn't come here today and make things right and set it straight shows me that you don't care about this community, and you don't care about your reputation, and you don't have humility. So I'm going to say, based off reputation, I don't want any part of Milhaus. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Lovell.
Thank you. So, a challenging situation, and I'm just going to kind of cut to kind of my thoughts, and some of this is philosophical, and some of it has to do with kind of where I see trends going and what I think is best for the city. Just as many times certain products in commercial real estate evolve and change, like we've seen the move away from big box retail, or we've seen different types of development evolve over time. We've sat on this dais over the last, how many years I've been here, and we've had multiple multifamily projects coming on, and we have greenlit a lot of those. And, quite frankly, sometimes I question whether we should have. What has become more, I guess, relevant to my point of view and kind of where I'm seeing this is like, can I get behind apartments? Yes. And in many cases, we referenced a development like Streets of West Pryor or Oldham Village, where that developer comes in an activity center with LOIs in hand for real users. And so it's not but for the apartments, then we'll get these things. So those are real activity centers that to me make sense in a more where I could still be behind multifamily. And it also elevates the quality of the multifamily. The amenities, the size, the architecture, design, and it plays more into an activity center. So it's harder and harder for me to want to support multifamily projects with the bet that there might be some commercial and not kind of the full-baked program that we're seeing. And so, you'll see me be in support of some, like I said, that are more surrounded of a big activity center. In this particular instance, I think it's a different type of product than we're used to. I think it's more density than I would like to see. And quite frankly, it's going to be a challenge, but what we want to see is lower density type multifamily projects or brownstones or architecturally softer impacts. And there have been a lot of rooftops in that area and across the street and Raintree, and we haven't seen a lot of commercial development. So I wonder what this really does for that commercial component. And so it has just become more philosophical to me about what the city needs to be today and in the future. And it's my position that we need less of this super high density. And I could even say too, where in my neighborhood, we were promised a lot of commercial if we built multifamily. And that's been 10 years. And we've seen very little commercial activity. Now there's some other challenges with that site too, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's been a net positive to our neighborhood. And we were sold that it would be. It's high density. It doesn't feel like, it feels more transient type traffic, like people in and out of the city. And so for that reason, looking at this development, not knowing what's coming in the commercial side of it, and just thinking in my mind that this is not, at some point, I just have to say, I can't support these anymore in the fashion that they're coming before us, and especially when it feels like it's a product that's not on par with what we've done in the past. Thanks, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Anybody else before I call for the vote or call for the ordinance to be read? Okay, well, usually I try to conclude remarks before we do that. I'm just trying to make a decision based on the PDP and what I'm seeing and the photos and the quality, and I feel like we approved. I'm not talking about the incentives. That's another public hearing. That's a whole different set of criteria for which we would approve something, and this fits all the stuff that we talk about week in, week out as far as the development codes and ordinances that we've hashed out year after year after year when it comes to the parking, the materials, the amenities. This has all the amenities other than the apartment, or excuse me, other than the elevators. So I can't find a reason really to say no to this. However, I feel a lot of resistance up here, so we'll see how this vote comes out. And the incentives are a whole nother topic. Because, yeah, as someone said, one of the public commenters, yeah, you're basically in a partnership whenever you incentivize someone. That's the way I see it. That's a fair statement. So, but as far as this goes, I thought council asked all the right questions tonight, and staff and the applicant answered them all. So I'm going to have Councilmember, who's reading this one? Councilmember Shields is going to read the ordinance, and we'll vote on this and see how this goes. Councilmember Shields, would you please read Bill number 25-125?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for second reading of Bill number 25-125, an ordinance approving a preliminary development plan for land located at 3620 Southwest Ward Road for 150 and Ward Apartments, all in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 33 of the Unified Development Ordinance of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Okay, we have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 25-125 by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Carlisle. Any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. And it fails 6-3. So I did hear a little bit in there from Councilmember Lovell. Was the only solution that I heard, which is bring back something more comprehensive. I know you tried to do that, Mr. Christie, from a very long time ago, but it wasn't the right fit. So we're not going to do another public hearing, Mr. Head. No reason to. Mr. Bushek, it just failed the PDP. Can I at least open it up and a motion to move it to another agenda and they can withdraw it later?
Mayor, the recommendation would be for us to take a short recess so that Mr. Bushek can confer with council for the developer. It is on your agenda. If we could have a few minutes to do that and determine whether there's a need to go forward.
Yeah, you can confer with the developer and hopefully withdraw. I mean, no offense, but like, there's no PDP, so there's no incentive. All right, we'll take a recess. You're messing with my schedule, Mr. Head. Take a recess for 10 minutes.
I'm Assistant Chief Jim Eden. And I'm Battalion Chief Ben Hicks. And today we're at Lee Summit Fire Station 3. Fire Station 3 was part of the 2016 no tax increase general obligation bond for public safety initiatives. The station was built and occupied in August of 2020. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we've not been able to give tours or have an actual ribbon cutting. So we want to invite you in today to give you the opportunity to see what goes on within a Lee Summit Fire Department station.
Let's go take a tour. This is our admin side of the facility. We use this side mainly for offices. We have a lot of work during the day, whether it's training or doing reports or just generally taking care of the shift that we need to do. At this particular station, Station 3, we do have an assistant chief that works out of here. That person has their own office where they need to manage what's going on throughout the day with the shift and staffing, and as well as running calls out of here. The captain has their own office as well. What the captain does is at this specific station is in charge of both the fire truck that's here as well as the ambulance. And so with all those personnel responsibilities as well as running calls and reports, that's where they work out of. And generally for the rest of the crew, which is somewhere around 5 to 6 individuals, we have rooms to write reports, and we have additional training rooms and other rooms where people can work. Walking into our living area, I think it's important to recognize that we work 48-hour shifts. So in the evenings, after 5 o'clock, after work is done, we may have the opportunity to catch a game or something else as long as we're not running calls. And this gives us the opportunity to do that. When we go into our kitchen, I think this gives you a great reason to know why we go to the grocery store, when you see fire trucks at the grocery store, what we're doing. Also, for 2 days working for 48 hours, we buy all our meals at the grocery store, and then we come in here and cook, just like you guys do at home. So everybody has their own fridge on each shift, as well as their own pantry, and then we cook those meals here. Going into the sleeping side of things, we've got a couple different things that are significant. We have our own laundry room, which again is important when we're here for 48 hours. The opportunity to wash and clean our clothes and bedding is very important for hygiene. And walking into where our beds are, we keep the kind of sleeping quarters over on one side of the building. It gives us both easy access out to where our fire apparatus are, as well as kind of keeping it a little bit quieter for those people that have been up all night running calls. We have 11 bedrooms here at this station. And the reason we built it with so many bedrooms is we want to give ourselves as a city the opportunity to expand. So if we need to put another apparatus here or numerous other people working at this station, that's already in place as far as infrastructure goes, and we don't need to go back and try to make it bigger or better. And that's really important for us, especially because the old station was so small. Back out on the apparatus floor, we have doors facilitated as many places as possible, so that way when we're sleeping at night and a call comes out, we can make our way out fairly quickly to get out onto the truck if we need to and run a call. On the other side of the station, we kind of have other stuff that we may want to keep separated if we want to. Physical fitness is very important to us as firefighters. So in order to better ourselves and make sure we're as healthy as we can to do this job, we have our own gym facility here that we kind of go throughout the day when we can and get an opportunity to come in and work out. Our goal when we run calls, when we get back to the station after calls, our goal is to get ready to go back as soon as we can to run another call. So we have the opportunity or capability here to fill up our air tanks. You can see firefighters wear the big air tanks on their backs and they use those in a fire. We can come back and fill those up and make sure that we're ready to go again when we're wanting to go run another call. We have our own workshop here. We work on a lot of our tools and making sure that everything's clean and operational, and this gives us the capability to do that, again, to make sure that we have everything we need and we're as capable as we can be running calls throughout the city. Cancer prevention is very important in the fire service right now. Because of that, we have an extractor machine, and what this does is gives us the capability when we come back from a fire, we can put our bunker gear into this machine and get all that really nasty crud off of our gear. Again, kind of getting back to that cancer prevention mode, allowing us to be as clean as we possibly can for the next call. And finally is our bunker gear room. We each have our own individual locker. This gives us the opportunity to store our gear when we're not here working in between shifts, as well as keep a clean extra set on here in case we do run a fire and we need to clean our current gear. Typically, this is where your day starts off at the fire station. You come in and get your gear and put it on wherever you're working that day, and then you end the same way, bring your stuff back to your locker to go home after working. This is Med 3. This ambulance just currently moved into the station from Station 7. Station 3, since we've had it built, has turned into one of our busiest stations in the city. Therefore, we wanted to provide the best care and the closest unit as we could. So we moved one of our ambulances up, and this became Med 3 for this particular instance. Out of this station, we also have Pumper 3. And that's a fire apparatus that they utilize to run the calls on this west end of the city. The last vehicle that you see is the chief's vehicle. We have 2 shift chiefs on shift every day, and they split the city. And this chief running out of this station typically covers the west and south area of the city, while our chief of Station 2 covers kind of that northeast section of our city, and they divide it up evenly.
Thank you for going on a tour with us today. If you have any other questions about the Lee Summit Fire Department, please go to our webpage at lsfire.net or follow us on Facebook at Lee Summit Fire Department.
Thanks for joining us on the tour.
Hello and welcome to Meet Me at the Market, your development update on Green Street. Green Street Market is enclosed and exterior work including roofing, glazing, tinting, and brick facade will be added soon. Wooden panels are up where glass doors will be, and workers are constructing utilities inside. When completed, a catering kitchen and concession area will be on the southwest side of the building, and bathrooms will be on both ends. Construction of the outdoor canopy adjacent to Green Street Market is ongoing. The steel beams and crossposts will support a translucent polymer roof covering the Green Street lawn, offering year-round programmed activities, events, and performances. Concrete has been poured in front of City Hall, and pavements, hardscapes, and landscaping will soon begin for Green Street Grove. The Streetscape Pavilion will serve as the gateway to Green Street with an art walk featuring art from acclaimed artists, an immersive kids playground, outdoor seating, and gathering spaces. More public art is coming. 4 local artists have been selected for the City Hall Public Parking Garage, and 3 finalists have been chosen for the digital mural for Green Street Market. Be on the lookout for an announcement very soon. 3rd Street from Douglas to Green intersection is expected to open on January 30th, followed by Green Street to the Johnson Street intersection in March. That's it for this episode of Meet Me at the Market. For more information on the project, visit cityofls.net/Green Street.
This is the best place to work.
I love working here.
I feel very blessed.
I love it here. I look forward to coming to work every day, being a part of this team.
Like a family away from home.
Where everyone feels like everybody knows their name.
A city that supports you. We see that with our benefits.
A pension, vacation days, job security.
Being able to be heard.
We feel valued. We feel respected.
Lee Summit is a very progressive city.
It's growing, it's thriving.
We have this drive towards not just doing a job, but doing it with a spirit of excellence. I had the opportunity to continue to grow, regardless of 30 plus years doing this kind of work.
It's more than just dollars and cents.
We're here really to give back.
Providing a service to better a community.
To go out and serve people.
To be a part of something bigger than yourself. If I would have known what I know now, years ago, I would have been here much sooner.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either a bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words, mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914, Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
Like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network. Who's close to you? If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Please, please, how can we help you?
My husband has...
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. Say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well, then we found a support person and they responded immediately. And we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
Bring this meeting back to order. Sounds like the developer would like to at least keep this on the radar without abandoning this project. So therefore, we're going to open this up. I'm going to ask for someone to do a continuance. The date I was given is pretty quick. So that's I'd be shocked if you guys turn this around that fast, but I think we can at least open it up and continue this. And if we have to continue it again, we can always do that later. But so let's do that. I'm going to close the. Actually, I'm just going to I'm going to close the regular session, open up the public hearing in the matter of agenda item 5B, Chapter 100 Plan for the Milhaus Apartment Project, Highway 150 and Ward Road, LLC is the applicant. I'm not swearing anybody in. I'm going to ask for a motion to continue. Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to continue the public hearing for the Chapter 100 Plan for Milhaus Apartments Project, Highway 150 and Ward Road, LLC applicant, item 2025-6967, to a date certain of August 5th, 2025.
Okay. We have a motion to continue to August 5th by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez. Discussion. I will mention, too, that we would need to, you'd have to get on an agenda also to, for a PDP plan as well. So, but you guys can work on that. And so I just want council to understand that, yes, we can continue this, but they'd also have to actually bring forward a PDP plan. Correct, Mr. Dunning? So that I would know what it is I'm actually approving the incentive for. Mr. Head, Mr. Bushak?
Thinking about.
Mr. Bushak's coming forward.
Yeah.
I just want to be transparent with not only the council, but also the developer. I mean, you'd have to put something in front of.
You have to have a project to incentivize.
Yeah.
Right.
We can always continue it again, so I'm okay with it to August 5th, but we can't do the incentives before a PDP. That just, I don't want to put that on the agenda like that, so, okay?
I think that's correct, Mayor. You have to have a project before you can have incentives. So
Okay.
there would have to be, the project would have to come back in some
Yeah.
fashion.
Makes sense. All right. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It passes 8-1, so it is continued. Let's see what you guys come up with, and we'll go from there. We are going to keep going with our meeting then. The next thing on the agenda, item on the agenda is public comments. I have Ms. Vollenweider here.
Teresa Vollenweider, 5201 Northeast Maybrook Road. It's been a good thing that I've been coming to these meetings because I do learn a lot. And one of the things I learned had to do with Jackie Malone's project. Hector Soto was the person that sent a letter to her. And in that letter was this, where it talks about a creation of a parcel using a meets and bounds description is a violation of the city's subdivision ordinance that requires such subdivision to be done via plat. And yes, it's in there. And if you look at F and G, no building permit shall be issued for the construction of any building or structure on a lot, tract, or parcel. It's a violation. And then G, no building permit shall be issued for a lot that is not platted as required by this section. That is a meets and bounds description. Meets is measure, bounds is to a point. And that is the definition right there of a meets and bounds description. Project address, 5261 Northeast Maybrook Road. That is a meets and bounds, legal description right there. It's a shorthand version, but that's it. And that is a building permit. Dated November 12, 2014. Another building permit, March 22nd, 2019. Again, that is a meets and bounds description.
Ms. Vollenweider, I hate cutting you off every week because I
I'd
keep
like
waiting
to
for you to
get
make
through this last thing, because
right.
this is the most important part.
Okay, because I've been waiting for this.
This sale, July 19, 2017. This permit, September 8, 2017. Project address, 5621 Northeast Maybrook Road. Legal description, Oak Ridge Meadows, 18th plat, lot 595. Parcel number is given there. At first I couldn't find these things, today I found them. The address for that project is actually 5601 Northeast Maybrook Road. So is this the plat that was used? Is this the hidden plat? Zoning district R-1. No, it was residential large lot. Why is the project address on this? That. If we flip the page, we even have Mike Weisenborn mentioning, permit has been extended 180 days. Applicant is working on site design details with development services and public works. Mike Weisenborn, and there's the time and the date. Again, next one, Mike Weisenborn. The inspection for this permit were performed under the permit for the new home.
And you're going to have to go that route. This can't be litigated here in this room from this dais in this manner.
This is educational for the people that are here. I do hope that people understand original survey and retracement survey.
We are moving on. I wish you would use your 3 minutes more efficiently. I don't like cutting you off. I really don't. I don't think you should be talking about these things given the other circumstances as well. So
I won't forget about being arrested, because I'm looking at the man that made it happen, along with one over here.
goodness. All right. Next, what do we have? Resolutions. Ms. Fowler-Arcuri, would you please read Resolution 2516?
Yes, Resolution number 25-16, a resolution approving the appointment of successor directors to the Board of Directors of the Raintree 150 Center Community Improvement District.
Thank you. I have a motion to adopt Resolution number 2516 by Councilmember Hodges, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez. Discussion? Councilmember Carlisle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry I did not give a heads up on this, but I do have a question, and I don't know who can answer it. But I know this is a very old district. Can anybody tell me what it encompasses? I couldn't find it in the documents.
I'm going to take a shot at it.
Okay.
I believe the Raintree 150 Center Community Improvement District is the Price Chopper area down on 150 in Raintree, if memory serves me right.
Okay.
That retail center.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So that's still to pay for road improvements? Are we still working on that? Or it's a CID, I guess.
It's a CID.
Okay, so they can do whatever they want with it, pretty much.
Within the CID boundaries.
Right.
I will double check that, but that's just going from trying to recall the 150 center, Raintree 150 center.
So, I'm sorry.
Okay, Ryan Elam, Assistant City Manager. We'll see if this works today for me.
Just put it on the wall.
That's what I'm gonna do. All right, so I don't know why this never works for me. Doc cam it is. All right, it's not going to work very well if I try to update this because it's going to rotate around on me. So this is upside down. So south is actually to the top of the screen, north is to the south. So this orange area that you see on the map, that's the CID area overall. Let's see if I can.
So it's not the shopping or the grocery store, like I mentioned. It's just to the east of that.
So is that right next to where that gross lake is?
No. No. Okay, so here we are at 291.
291. Okay, I was thinking over further.
291.
Okay.
That is the southeast corner of 291 and 150, or southwest corner, but east of Market.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It does pass 9-0. Thank you. That takes us to committee reports. Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. Finance and Budget Committee met yesterday, and we had a really good discussion about municipal judge duties and compensation. We're going to continue that discussion next month with some more information that the staff and the judges are going to gather regarding duties and some details about what it takes to set up an official mental health court docket, an official drug court docket. So look forward to having some more information to report out maybe in another month or so on that. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hodges?
Thank you. Just a reminder that CEDC meets tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Council comments? Councilmember Rader?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a suggestion out of respect for our mayor and the council members that we reinstate the comments, the little comment blurb that you made as mayor since we have a new member showing up for comments, if you remember.
I can start reading those again.
Thank you.
Yep, there's different ones. I think I have them all up here.
Get a good one.
Yeah. I will, I've been as generous as I can with giving her a little bit extra time to make a point, but if she's going to be aggressive like that and say crazy things like she said, I'm not going to give her any more time. So just so you know, I won't give her extra time anymore. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Councilmember Pryor?
Thank you, Mayor. One, I forgot to say this at the very beginning, but Betty Ray's is open. That's big for Lee Summit.
What'd you say?
Today, Betty Ray's.
Oh.
Have you been? You haven't been to Betty Ray's? I can tell by the way you're acting.
I haven't been there, no.
Oh, well, you've never had ice cream. I don't even like ice cream, but I like Betty Ray's.
Okay.
It's good.
Yeah, I've heard.
It opened in Councilmember Shields and mine, our district inside Price Chopper. And tomorrow they're doing free waffle cones with your purchase of ice cream, according to the website. I know, so it's pretty exciting. And then I was also wondering, and then this morning they did ice cream for 50 people, but I didn't wake up early enough to get in line. Who owns the detention pond behind the chiropractor's office in Raintree? Or retention? Yeah.
Ryan Elam, Assistant City Manager. That would be the owner of the shopping center.
Which is?
Believe it is Dr. Verrill Boot.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Shields?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm probably going a little out of order, but I was reminded that we also had EDC today, Lee Summit EDC, and I think they're continuing to make good progress. We approved the budget for the upcoming fiscal year, and they're looking at some options to expand staffing, continue with their event planning, talking about getting ready for their 40th anniversary celebration, and also had some great updates on some new potential projects for both new businesses and retention and expansion of existing businesses. So it's been great as a board member to get updates on those every month, that they've been including those in the board packet to keep us apprised of the different requests for information that are coming through. And I think there's hopefully a lot of good things coming to Lee Summit that way. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a positive vibe, but they're trying to get all their operations in order now that they've, the director's been in place for a little bit. All right. Any other council comments before I go to staff roundtable? Staff roundtable.
Thank you, Mayor. I just sent all of you an email reminder about the Charter Review Commission. The application period for those interested in Charter Review Commission opens tomorrow. So I've sent you all an email with kind of some details here. We will begin actively casting that message out, the public awareness for that through different means, social media or newsletters on our website and things. So that opens tomorrow, and it runs through 5 p.m. on August 15th. So we will start providing more information to you, but please feel encouraged to start sharing that as you go about the community, civic engagements, and other events and things like that. So that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. It was a good meeting. You guys were on point. You asked good questions, and we're out at a reasonable time. So well done.
Well done.
Adjourning this meeting at 8:42.